Four separate trunks and branches that spread out to provide a natural shade from the sun. There was a tractor parked outside one of the barns, dressed in white come out, pushing a wheelbarrow. Apart from the soothing tinkle of water in the fountain, everything was silent. Meteo Pedro tapped Matt's arm and pointed. Matt looked into the distance and saw a guard tower constructed at the edge of the complex. At the same time, a man appeared with a rifle strapped across his back. Stopped and lit a cigarette, then kept on walking. So Matt had been right. This and might be in the middle of nowhere. But Salamander left nothing to chance. The place was guarded, and Matt was sure there would be plenty of other security around too. Q and Demos Aroa, Pedro asked. We won't wait. The meaning of Pedro's questions was obviously he wanted to know what they were going to do. Matt looked up. The sun was already setting behind the palm trees that grew tall behind the houses. The night might still be an hour away, but the shadows were spreading out. They would help to dark. They would help two dark-skinned boys in a dark clothes. In the dark, it wouldn't be too hard to slip inside. The house itself seemed to be unguarded. Their wide wooden steps led up to the vendor that ran its full length. There was nobody in the courtyard. No sign of a movement in the guard tower security camera. Matt hadn't seen any, and besides, there was always a chance that they might not operate in this lower light. He would just have to risk it, but thought that Richard could be here, perhaps only a few meters away. Spurred him on, he nudged Pedro and then keeping low run through the gate and crossed one corner of the courtyard, making for the side of the houses. Nobody saw them, nobody shouted. Matt stopped breathless, his back against the wall just below the vendor. Pedro was next to him. The Peruvian boy wasn't looking happy. He shook his head as if to say, "This is a crazy idea, and I didn't want any part of it." But at the same time, he was still sticking by him. Matt was grateful that right now he wasn't alone. Where would Richard be, and how could they possibly find him in a house crawling with guards? There was no obvious prison in the complex. No windows covered with bars, and a basement of cellar pipes. That would be the most likely place, but first they had to get in. At least that wasn't going to be difficult. Now he was closer. Matt could see that the vendor continued all the way around the back. On one side was a handrail separating the houses from the garden, and the courtyard. The house had tall elegant windows, standing at regular intervals, about 5 metres apart. The windows reached down almost to the floor, and all of them were open. Matt glanced at Pedro, giving him one last chance to back out. Pedro nodded as if to say, "I'm with you." Matt reached up and used the handrail to pull himself onto the fender. Now he was as good as inside the house. The roof with its heavy red tiles stretched him. Matt waited until Pedro had joined him, then crept around the side almost at once so he heard voices. There was a meeting going on in one of the rooms, but in the stillness of the evening, the sounds carried Matt gestured, and the two of them crept along the vendor past more sofas and some terracotta pots. They come to an open French window. A man was speaking on the other side, carefully inching his way. Matt peered around the corner and looked in. It was a dining room with a vast wooden table that seemed to have been cut from a single tree. The floor was also made of polished wood, and there were wooden panels set into the walls. An iron cylinder, it must have weighed a ton, hung down, illuminating the room, not with electronic bulbs, but with about 100 candles, each one in its own holder. There were 3 men and a woman sitting around the table. Matt recognized one of them instantly and stopped dead, feeling the ground might open beneath him. It was Rodriguez, the policeman, the police captain who had beaten him up at the hotel. In Marifolis he was in uniform. The other 2 men wore suit. The woman wore a simple black dress. All over them were listening attentively as they were giving their instructions. The man who was speaking was sitting in a tall wicker chair with his back to the window. Matt could see nothing of him apart from one arm and resting on one of the chair arms. He had long fingers and seemed to be wearing a lined suit. He was speaking quickly in good English, only stumbling occasionally over the odd words. Matt whistled very softly to Pedro and nodded his head towards the room. Why were they using his own language? If he listened long enough, he might find out. I don't care with what is impossible and what is not, but man was saying. I give the instructions, and you will obey. The Silver Swan must be Engelpolis in position 5 days from now at midnight exactly. You will have the responsibility for this. You understand, Miss Kern? The woman nodded. It will all be done, she said. Her English was worse than his and heavily accent, but I am needing soon. It took her a minute to find the word. I must have the coordinators, she said. Now Matt understands the woman was German and spoke no Spanish. The man was Spanish and spoke no German. They were using English as a common language. You will have the coordinators as soon as I have them myself. The man went on. My agents have been into the Nescal Desert, but they have but but they have still failed to find the system. They still failed to find the platform. The diary did not give you the position. It gave me the approx position, and it's possible that we now have enough to place the swan exactly where it is meant to be. But I prefer to leave nothing to chance. We have to be careful, but the search continues just as long as everything is ready at your end. Of course, Salamander, everything will be as you asked. That was the end of it. Matt was literally in with his head. Subscribe, hit the bell, share, like, thank you. Click on the end screen with thumbnail playing. Watch my video from start to finish. Thank you. Subscribe, subscribe, hit the bell, share, like, thank you. Click on my thumbnail. Watch my videos from start to finish and my title. Subscribe, hit the bell, share, like, thank you.